The Persona series is a hard series to pin down a favorite in because each story has such an in-depth way of interaction. Through social links and dungeon crawling, somehow this world never seems to miss a good way of developing a character. Except for Haru, but that's just one exclusion. From Mitsuru Kirijo to Chie Satonaka, it's really hard for me to think of my favorite, or what I'd consider a genius character, if you will. This video, though, is gonna do just that. So, here's a large spoiler warning. A very big one. And with as hard as it is to decide on a character, there's always been one that's taken my heart from the get-go. One with a taste for some good grub, if you will. So, without further ado, let me tell you why I like Goro Akechi. Detective prince with holder of the soul called Justice, direct rival to Runamamiya, and the popular heartthrob, Goro Akechi is a pancake lover with a genius development throughout Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. He also just so happens to be my favorite character of all time and has rightfully earned his said spot. And I mean, what better place to start this series off? Goro Akechi is introduced into Persona 5 shortly after Madarame's palace at the school field trip and is the detective prince of Shibuya. He's been a young star in the public eye for a little while now, and along with his public prosecutor friend Sai Nijima, has been digging into the mental shutdown and psychotic breakdown incidents. Or is it more than just researching these? Ever since the first interaction you have with Goro Akechi, where he exposes his love for a certain type of breakfast food...
Oh, am I mistaken? I thought I heard something about delicious pancakes.
Something is off. Specifically, those with a keen eye caught the pancakes line that Mona said, and supposedly blind Akechi caught on to. More on that later. Every piece of Akechi's character is amazing, but what got me hooked even deeper into his story was the amazing symbolism and slight references throughout the story, game, and confided pathway. One of the most obvious of these symbols is seen in his personas. The first of which is Robin Hood. You know, the classic story, taking from the rich to give to the poor. This is a very obvious connection. Shido as the rich and Akechi himself as the poor, but what's more interesting to me is the idea of Akechi becoming a phantom thief, and utilizing that in order to give the information and transparency of his workplace to who wants it. Robin Hood never really wanted to be hidden from the eyes of those whom he helps, but bit that bullet in order for a greater cause. Akechi bit the bullet to keep his true intention in secret in order to give the world a greater hope, even though the fluffy baked good exposed him to the phantom thieves. So, tough luck! Akechi's other persona, Loki, is based off the god of Norse mythology, with an absolutely awesome design, may I mention. Like, those stripes work so well, but look so off-putting, and it's just great. Loki is well known, now especially in Marvel films, as a god of mischief and trickery, playing pranks on humans and other gods. Although many people mistake his chaos as a deed of evil, Norse mythology Loki has never gone against the gods. He may have showed his power in a less than ideal way, but not once has he gone against the people of the world. And voila, Akechi. He may be fighting against Shido for a personal grudge, but his grudge does benefit the populace. Loki can be seen through Akechi since his revolutionary ideas were chaotic, but in the end deemed as righteous due to his long-term goal. Akechi knows what he's doing is wrong, but does so for what he deems as a greater good. And finally, Akechi's later persona, which is a tease since you literally get it for the final battle and nothing else, is Hereward. The story of Hereward the Exile comes from Old British text, stating Hereward was cast out at the age of 18 by Edward the Confessor, due to Edward the Confessor deeming what he seemed as excessive disobedience. Then after being shunned away in 1067, Hereward returned to his home in England only to see the Normans had killed his brother. And in a fit of rage, he went and killed the 15 of the invaders, understandably, and would later participate in the Norman insurrection of 1070. After the fall of Ely, chronicles of Hereward's life is a blur, with a few conflicting accounts and nothing really set in stone. This entire story seems to be the basis for Akechi, having been exiled by Shido and forced to grow back his own life in order to get to the forefront of Shido's eye again. Yet this time, he witnesses his father corrupted by evil. By sneaking into the ranks, Akechi planned to kill Shido, and after entering Shido's palace, the rest of his life is a blur. The story of Hereward is a perfect example of Akechi's drive, and honestly is not a story you hear about much. Also, on a face level, the idea of naming his persona Hereward shows that Akechi doesn't really want to go backward, and doesn't really want to go forward, but wants to stay Hereward, and keep his legacy the way it was. No? Okay. One thing that is done super well in Akechi's character is the facades, or acts if you will. Akechi is the traitor in the Black Mask, and as much as it was hinted at, and as obvious as it was, I believe it was still pulled off well. I mean, when it finally happened, that sense of, I knew it, was amazing. That's not why you're here though. Akechi's entire persona, if you will, changes after this crucial point, and the contrast of his two personalities, as well as the callbacks and hints to one another, is why I find this character design so amazing. The first long red-nosed regal crow is the determined detective with a contemplative yet somehow optimistic view of the world. A bit egotistical at times, but definitely a figure in the world that seems so precise about his life that anyone would want to be around him. This is seen mainly in the first few confidant ranks, as Akechi seems to want your opinion and becomes a close rival throughout your challenging exchanges. He seems like someone with his life together, yet as seen in both Sai's and especially Shido's palace, under the surface is an entire other story. After his boss, we see Akechi snap into his true attitude. He dons a black mask, now to terms with what he knows is reality. He lets his true self to the light, taking what was previously a posh stature, replacing it with a grueling black mask and a horrible posture. I have a feeling that if you fight him for too long, his back might blow out. In this form, Akechi exposes his true ideals, exacting revenge on Shido. This version of Akechi is a lot more outwardly violent and much more honest. He has nothing to lose, except of course the fight with the Phantom Thieves. I think it's ingenious how the latter end of Akechi's confidant also hints at this. Through a bit of a cryptic story, he tells Ren his background and asks him if it's fair. Obviously not, as any villain backstory is, but what poked out to me was the request for Ren to leave the Phantom Thieves in turn for Akechi's path. After saying no, Confidant 8 shows up where you battle Akechi, and then he states,
I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I hate you.
But in reality he doesn't. Shortly after, he passes you his glove.
There's a tradition in the West to throw one's glove at their opponent when demanding a duel. Should the opponent accept the glove, the duel is also accepted.
Akechi never really wanted to take a dark path, but knows he needs to in order to reach his goal. So, back to Shido's palace. We spoiled way more than enough already, but Akechi dies, and in his death scene, we see he believes he can stick up for what he believes is righteous. Then he returns in Semester 3, and we see him determined again to create his own path. More vicious and blunt this time, with an over-exaggerated bloodlust. Akechi's true intentions are open from the get-go. This black mask has proven to him that what he does in the end is for a cause he believed in. A path that is created of his own volition. And he wishes to fight so his path will stay that way. I love the meaning behind Akechi's arc in Semester 3 because it takes both sides, the popular detective prince and the drowned out brutal black mask side, and proves that even though the world wants to see us as a prince, the honesty of the darker side of ourselves is just as important. We need not be guided by the world, but instead by our hearts. Reason 3, and the last one I'm going to state here, isn't as cool or in-depth as the other two. It's much more just me. And if I'm being honest, just look at this dapper man! This is definitely more of a personal bias, but Akechi just looks super cool. Something about the contrasting colors being red, white, and gold in his first attire is just so nice to the eyes. Pancakes for your visual field. Anyway, the colors clash just right, and design-wise is my personal favorite attire of the game in both ways. I mean, yeah, the stripes do look a little goofy in his second form, but the claws, and especially the helmet, made his outfit just so much better. His all-out attack in Semester 3 as well, bro! Oh, it's sick! And his slick jacket, both in the winter and interviews, makes this man absolutely dapper. And what good is a character without a bit of a personality? The lines of this witty character are pulled off so well. I mean, Robbie Daymond was such a perfect pick for this role. He balances his voice really well between a calm atmospheric tone and a criminal raspiness to make it feel real. I mean, it's not like I'm a huge fan of his work or anything. Soichiro Hoshi, the Japanese voice actor, also pulled him off great as well, going from a quirky sounding high school kid to a bit of an insane man. But all around, both voice actors absolutely killed the roles. Is it luck of the draw or just plain good choice by Atlas? We may never know, but all around the design choices just put me in that kind of excited mood whenever Persona 5's Detective Prince came onto that screen. And that's why I like Goro Akechi. Like the man in question, we may all go through a tough time. It's how we handle it that makes the person. Even though we force ourselves to put on a mask and hide our true spirit, in the end, it takes a toll on our morale. It's up to you to stick to your own justice and choose your own path. Although this meant Akechi's fate in Shido's palace, the clarity of free will is what matters. Even the most evil intention has a drive. And the ideal justice we create is what we should follow, not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. Be yourself. Chase your dreams, and don't let your corrupted so-called father be the only thing that drives your bloodlust. Maybe don't take it out like Akechi did, but be sure to write the pages of your own story. So till next time, go enjoy some delicious pancakes. I'll see you in the next one.